Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Rico, and this is Relatively Sound, the channel that is more fun than you thought it would be. Now, if you understood that reference, or if you looked at the title of this video, today I'm going to be reviewing the latest Counting Crows album, Butter Miracle, The Complete Suites. Now, I know I'm a little late to getting this review out, and I apologize, but better late than never. Butter Miracle is the band's eighth studio album released in May of this year. And before we get into the review, I do think it's important to know the backstory on what happened with this album because it's quite an interesting one. The band's last studio album was actually all the way back in 2014 with their album Somewhere Under Wonderland, which I enjoyed, but definitely not my favorite Counting Crows album. But in 2021, the band did release an EP titled Butter Miracle Sweet One, which I also have on vinyl. This did come with the August and Everything After song on the B side. And it's a very interesting EP because the band started writing it when Adam was in England on a friend's farm. And he started writing the songs that was intended to be a suite. And he wrote four of them. And the band was like 85% of the way done recording it when COVID hit, obviously, in 2020. And it kind of paused everything for a little bit. But they ended up releasing this EP in 2021. And I really enjoyed it. I actually liked it way more than Somewhere Under Wonderland. I thought the band was kind of going in new directions, obviously, with the composition of the actual suite itself. I do think it's really cool that each song blends into the next song. And you can listen to it not only as a full album, but as a full piece of music. But the songs stand very well on their own. A lot of callbacks to earlier kind of 70s rock influences, but I thought they did those sounds quite well. But then the band was talking about, oh, well, because it's titled Suite One, there's going to be a second part of the suite, and we're going to eventually combine the two and release it as a full album, which I was excited for because I'm like, if it's going to be as good as Suite One, I think this could be their best album in a while. But Adam has gone on interviews and said that he decided that the other songs he was writing for this next suite, they weren't cutting it. So he went back in the studio, rewrote a lot of lyrics, a lot of songs, took out verses, basically just changed the songs completely, all except for one. And I guess it ended up not really being a second part to the suite because this album is basically five new songs, and then the suite bookends the album with the four songs that were released on the previous EP. And I'm very torn on this because they released two singles. When they announced this album earlier this year, they released two singles before the album dropped. So by the time the album came out, there was really only three songs that most fans hadn't heard up to that point because we knew the last four songs on the album, we knew the original EP, and we knew the two new singles. So I think a very lackluster way to release the album, despite how good a lot of these songs are. But I kind of understand why they did it this way because if they had just released another EP, I don't think there would have been as much attraction from, music critics, and the band has to sell tickets to their new tour and they want to play the new songs live. I was just a little disappointed by this actual release to this album. It didn't hit as hard as most other album releases because there was only three new songs basically. I mean, there still was five songs together altogether, but by the time the album came out, I already had listened to the two singles a lot because I do think they're really good. But that aside, I want to actually get into the music. Now, as I said earlier, I think Suite One was fantastic. And I think it had, besides Palisades Park from the last album, I think some of these songs were the best thing they've released since Saturday mornings and Sunday nights. I think The Tall Grass is a fantastic opener. I love the spacey sounds that you get in the intro. The chord progression is very unique. This song is one of the few that doesn't sound like a throwback to other songs. It sounds just like a modern new thing for the band. A lot of cool imagery with the lyrics about Adam, I think, being in a farm in the UK. I especially love the way the song builds. I love the emotion in Adam's voice. I mean, it sounds like it could have been in the middle of a round here live performance where he'll throw in lyrics to other songs or make up lyrics on the spot. The Tall Grass, fantastic song. Elevator Boots, I think is just a cool kind of, this is the one I feel like could be on the radio. It kind of has that 70s rock throwback. And I do like how the lyrics with Bobby is introduced in this song, and then you get it on the last song on the EP, Bobby and the Rat Kings, of course. It does kind of make it a full circle moment for this suite. And I really love Angel on 14th Street. I just love the energy with this song. This one to me has like the most kind of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band sound. You have a trumpet solo in the middle. You have the really catchy melody of Adam when he sings, "Get up, get up, get up." This one I will put on playlist by itself just because I just love the kind of upbeat feel to the song. So everything about Sweet One I really like. Bobby and the Rat King's not my favorite song, but I do think it fits with the other three songs. So when the complete album was released earlier this year and then released the first single, Spaceman in Tulsa, I liked it more than I think a lot of fans did. A lot of fans, I think, thought the song was a little kitschy, a little goofy. Adam's dropping a lot of motherfuckers in the song. The lyrics, they're not nonsense, but there's a lot of just random imagery and words that they're fun, but they don't really seem to always fit the theme of the song. Even though I do think the song has really great themes of being true to yourself. And I think a lot of fans between that and between the kind of, I don't know how to describe the music. It is a little piano heavy, which I like. It almost kind of sounds like a Elton John song, which he's not one of my favorite artists, but it just has that kind of 70s, 80s sound to it that I just don't think a lot of people attribute to the Counting Crows. So some people did find the song to be a little cringe, but I liked it. A lot of people really preferred the second single called Under the Aurora. And that's the one that had to grow on me a little bit. I think on a first listen, it took me a little bit to get into the chord progression. There's a lot of chords in the song, and it takes a while for it to loop. And my least favorite thing about this song and my least favorite aspect of Spaceman is actually the group vocals. They're not just like backing vocals, but like in Spaceman, you have these do 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 do's that they do sound corny. And on Under the Aurora, they just, I don't know, I don't like the tone of the whole band singing together. There are some bands that pull it off great, like the Eagles. I think Journey are very underrated when it comes to group vocals. The Killers, another underrated band when it comes to that aspect. Counting Crows to me, no, they don't pull it off for me. So because Under the Aurora, they're singing whole lines together in the chorus, it kind of was distracting for me. But the more I sat with the song, the more I appreciated the lyrics. I do think the chord progression in the chorus is classic Counting Crows. Kind of reminds me of something from Hard Candy, which is an album with a lot of great pop hits and pop songs. So this definitely gave me vibes of that era of the band. And I can see why people like it. It's kind of another song that's catchy, but has hard-hitting lyrics. There's a couple songs on this first half of this album that I like, but don't love. One being the album opener, which is titled With Love from A to Z, which is a reference to him and his girlfriend, his first name starting with A, her first name starting with Z. I do like that. It's a little cute, but the song is just like a blues song. It's a little slower. It's kind of a slow burn opener, which I don't mind. Fantastic guitar work on this song, though. David and Emmer, they're just going wild on this song. It's kind of like an excuse for them to just do these guitar solos, these great riffs with a lot of bends, a lot of soul. I like it. It's just bluesy, not always my favorite style of rock. I would have liked a bit more of an exciting album opener, but I do like the song, and I do like Adam's performance in it, especially in the chorus. He really sells that chorus. The other song that I think I like it, but is not my favorite, I think it's just okay, is Virginia Through the Rain, which I'm sure is another hot take because a lot of fans thought that this is one of the better songs from the album. Kind of an acoustic ballad, a little slower. Again, great piano. Charlie is all over this album, and I love it. But this one, nothing really stands out to me. Again, good lyrics. And this is the one song that Adam said he did not have to rewrite for the remaking of this album. He thought it was a perfect song from the beginning. And I don't think it's a perfect song. I think it's executed well. It's just there's other songs on the album that move me more, including The Tall Grass and including my favorite song from the album, which is actually Boxcars. Maybe this is a hot take, but Boxcars is far and away my favorite song on the album. Not far and away because I do really like those songs on the last half of this album, the Buttermiracle Suite. But Boxcars really does it for me. I decided I really like when this band just does fast, straight ahead rock songs. Angels of the Silences, 19, Angel of the Silences, 1492, Cowboys. I mean, those are some of my favorite Counting Crows songs. And I feel like you only get really one per album if you're lucky. But Boxcars to me is really where the band shines the most. You have some fantastic guitar work that's a little buried in the mix during the chorus. You also have the guitar riff, which is kind of fun. If you watch interviews with Adam during this album rollout, he came up with a guitar riff by humming it in his head. But in his head, he was humming the riff with the words coronavirus, coronavirus, because he was writing it during the pandemic. And I thought by the time I'd heard the song after hearing all these interviews, that's all I was going to hear during that guitar riff. Thankfully, it's not. Although I will say the guitar riff, that's my least favorite part of the song. I love the guitar work in the chorus. I love the guitar kind of solo in the middle of the song. In the chorus, you get these like kind of synths that are kind of descending, which I think gives the song more of a modern feel because the song does, again, sound like a, kind of 70s rock song, a little bit like The Who, especially with that one piano lick that gets you into that first chorus. Lyrically, I really love the song. I think it has some of the strongest lyrics on the whole album. Adam's kind of singing about, it sounds like he's singing about kind of a time period of the 1950s. Like he's kind of singing about like a nuclear family where he's like mom and dad and a couple of kids staring at the screen. Makes it easier on you, makes it easier on me. That's my favorite part of the whole song. That chorus with the chorus and that melody that he sings just hooks me. Absolutely hooks me. I can't say more great things about this chorus. And I love that it's not doubled until the last chorus, which is where he kind of adds some additional lyrics, some new melodies. His voice gets a little bit more passionate. Boxcars to me is just the song on the album. It's the one I replayed the most by far. And I will say, I had to take a break from the Buttermiracle Suite Part 1 because I listened to it a lot when it came out between 2021 and now. I listened to it a lot. I went and bought the record. Even though I had to take a break from that first EP, I still really love all the songs. It's just I have two main complaints about this album, and I'll get them over the way quick because I do think this album shouldn't be bogged down by some of my negative aspects as much. But my main problem, which I already talked about, is I wish they would have included some more songs, or I almost kind of wish they would have just done two separate EPs or maybe not really singles from the first side of the album because it would have been more exciting to hear more new songs on the release date of this album. But my other complaint when it comes to the actual music is the mixing. Now, when people heard this album, fans, they stated that they think that someone re-engineered or remixed the songs from the first EP for this album. And they're like, oh, I'm hearing more things in the mix on the Tall Grass and Elevator Boots. I think the mix sounds better. Maybe I just don't have the right ears for those small little nuances. It sounds the same to me. And I never really loved the production on the first EP. But for some reason, I think the first 5 songs on this album, the new songs, the mixing and the production hold some of these songs back. There's something going on with the opening track where I just feel like a lot of the instruments are a little muddied or like they don't sound crisp. And I'm not just talking about the vinyl. I'm talking about listening to it on Spotify or YouTube. Like it doesn't sound clear. And then with Boxcars, my favorite song on the album, I don't love the sound of the drums because the song begins with just the little simple hi-hat, and that just sounds a little off to me. The bass is really buried in the mix. Like I mentioned before, the guitars, which I love in the chorus, you can't really hear them unless you're really trying to pick them out. And this whole album, especially the first five songs, I just don't love the mix. It doesn't sound as crisp as it can. It sounds like something that maybe was mixed like in the mid 2000s, which definitely not the best period for music when it comes to production and the loudness wars. It works a little better on the second half of the album with the EP because maybe just the songs and the older styles the band's trying out fits that style of production more. But I don't know. The mix and production on this album kind of holds it back for me. So, is it a bit of a mixed bag for me? A tiny bit. Taking the way the album and the songs are released aside, because I don't think that really affects the songs, I really enjoy this album. I do think this is a much stronger album than Somewhere Under Wonderland. And even though this album is kind of, a tale of two sides, kind of like their album Saturday Mornings and Sunday Nights, I do think this album works better. It's only got 9 songs and it's fairly short, definitely shorter than Saturday Mornings. And I think it's better off being shorter. I feel like there's not a lot of fat they needed to trim from this album. And even the couple songs that are still growing on me, I enjoy. And I think I'll like them more over time. But I really enjoy this album. Some really great standout moments, some tracks that I definitely will keep going back to over the years. And I think right now it would sit at like a 8 out of 10 for me. I think if this album was, produced by someone else or maybe remastered or remixed, it could be like an 8.5 to a 9 because I think that's how good Boxcars is. I think that's how good Under the Aurora and The Tall Grass and Angel on 14th Street are. I think those are all fantastic songs. I just don't love the mixing of this album as much. But those are going to be my thoughts for this album. As a big Counting Crows fan, I'm always happy to get new music from them. It was like 11 years between this album and Somewhere Under Wonderland. So they're definitely taking more time in between their albums, which I don't love. But Adam said that he has to be inspired to write. He's not always like writing every day like a lot of other musicians. And I'm okay with that. I rather them take time and release albums full of great songs like this one than to just release rehash work every couple years like some other bands. So I enjoy this album. If you're a fan of the band or if you've given this album a listen, definitely drop us a comment and let us know what are some of your favorite songs are, what you think of this album. Do you agree with some of my takes? Do you not? Let me know. And next week, Tony and I are going to be back. We're going to be doing a album reaction and review to an Incubus album. So stay tuned for that. And then I will be back probably the following week with some album / discography rankings from some of my favorite bands and artists. So stick around for that. But until then, hope you take care and you'll be hearing from us soon. Bye-bye.